For those that have been part of my workshops that I run on design thinking drawing, I've done 12 or more now over the last couple of years, maybe 250 or more people. I always start with a series of photographs on the table, and these are from my trips overseas, and they're all of interesting places and have interesting reasons for choosing each image. To me, one of the fundamental issues of or ideas about design thinking drawing is how you can observe what's around you and distill qualities. We need to explain why we like things and why things have value and why things are useful, why things have interest. It's not just I like that, it's got to be a bit more than that. So each person chooses a postcard, and there's ones of obscure Norwegian towns, places that people probably know quite well. Porto in Portugal is pretty amazing. Venice, of course, and sort of the mystery little areas of Seville looking through into the courtyards. There's a whole range of different images, and I find it interesting when people introduce themselves to explain why they chose the image. So it gives me a sense quickly of the types of things that interest people in terms of urban design and the things that appeal to them. And it also gets a chance to get to know people a bit and to start a conversation. So what I'm going to do now is pick one of the images, which is one of my favourite images. And if you see my other videos, you'll see my sketch of this particular place. And it's this one right here, which I find really quite remarkable. I'm not sure that people know where this is, but it's in Seville. It's called Plaza Alfalfa. And it's a plaza that we visited quite often in Seville. And in fact, we first came past it when we came in from the railway station in a taxi. And the windy streets are windy, and we came down, and then in the distance in front of us was this quite beautifully scaled plaza, and then we turned left and went down to a further labyrinth of streets to find our courtyard apartment building that we were staying in. But that night we were looking for somewhere to have dinner, and we talked to a few people about where to possibly go, and they mentioned the name of a few places, and we just wandered aimlessly. And to be perfectly honest, Seville is very confusing when you first arrive. The streets they're all curvy and bendy and short, and there's lots of turns and very few vistas and landmarks to work through. It's quite a rich environment, quite spectacular. But we came across this plaza, and then I realised that it was the same one as we'd seen earlier in the day. In fact, we had dinner in this restaurant and sat in a table and chairs in that window there, which was quite nice. But we went back there a few days later, and I thought, well, it's a nice plaza, let's try and find something to draw. And the cafe that we're sitting in, we had dinner the night before we went drawing, and so we could sit there and have quiet cups of tea and morning tea and lunch, and just sit quite nicely and draw, and the light as it fell onto the buildings was really nice. So what I say to people in my workshops is that you've chosen this, you've told me why you like it, and so try now to describe your likes and your understanding of it with a drawing. So you can use words. To my mind, if you can say something with words, you can then convert every sentence, as it were, into a drawing. So let's just have a go at this. And there's lots of versions of this, and this is a popular image and it's been chosen a lot by people. The reason I liked it, firstly, I think, was because, of the amazing, in the winter sun. This was in January. The amazing tree that's there, and then the counterpoint of the shadow, on the building coming down. And the other important aspect of the tree was the interesting silhouette against the sky. So you can just colour the sky in. So you've got shadow, the tree. In fact, it might be a bit further down, the sky. So, you know, that could well, this pen's a bit thick, it's okay, shadow. And it could be just that. And if you wanted to, you could add some more information briefly about the space and say, well, that's it. The other aspect, of course, of the shadow is the amazing shadow back here. I should have two blues for this, but bear with me. And the other aspect, of course, is that the lower down you go, the darker it becomes. And so you get this really interesting sort of base through there. So it means that this building is really strongly silhouetted, and against the background it's very bright, it's very dark through here. You know, so it's a terrific view. So let's think about that as one thing. So if you look at it again and say the colours in Seville are quite spectacular. So we could say that it's the richness of the colour that really is quite transfixing. There's a strange sort of dark, warmish pink colour at the back here, reddish colour coming through, and of course, you know, there is actually a colour down lower down here on the entrance, which let's just use that. I thought that was grey. We'll try again. Grey, and then a slightly odd colour for a building, but it seems to work quite well. Probably can't see that too well in this light, but it's a flesh pinky sort of colour. Might put a bit of that on it as well, just to make it breed. And of course, you know, we then need to put the other colour that helps the composition and the sky as well. And maybe the tree is not so critical, and maybe the shadows aren't so critical. So one of the things that I've learnt through this design thinking drawing view of the world is that when you're trying to draw a diagram, you've got to be a bit selective about what you try to show in the diagram. The diagram is distilling an observation and an idea, and in fact, to make the observation and idea more understandable and stronger, you may need to just focus on certain types of things, not everything. So, you know, we could say that the colours of Seville are quite spectacular. Another way to think about this is, and in a way this is partly why I've chosen the image. Let's leave the tree for the time being, and let's just draw that shadow in through there. And there's the shadow of the building in through here as well, plus the shadows then, you know, on the ground from the buildings behind. So, you know, what's interesting about this is that there's a route that goes through and beyond. There's something down here that we want to find. There's an invitation, and I think the idea of the invitation is really quite critical in cities, in terms of you arrive at a place. This is a place for pausing and gathering in a plaza, but there's an invitation to keep moving and exploring. In fact, I didn't walk down this little laneway, as it turns out. We went elsewhere, but you know, the idea of the invitation is quite nice as well. So, you know, that could be number 3. The other aspect is the sun on here. So with narrow streets in Seville, it's very difficult to get lots of sun onto the into the little 2, 3 metre, 4, 5 metre wide walkways going up 3 or 4 or 5 stories. So if you think about it, you know, if we in fact drew a section through here, and so this is the yellow building. There's a building here, and then these buildings are in the background through there. So this is a section, of course. Sections are very good types of design thinking drawings to do. So I usually just do some hatching to show you the section through there. But also we could say, well, you know, there's the shadow, and by the way, here is our tree as well. And this will be obvious to everybody to say, maybe that's also, is that the sun in the south, this facade is facing south and gets sunshine. So that could be number 4 as a thing. And the other aspect, which is in fact is the drawing I've drawn in my book, is the plan of the space. So this is the building we're looking at. This is the invitation through here. Tables and chairs. There's a florist here. There's a bakery there. The restaurant there. La Escaola. I recommend that to anyone who goes to Seville. It's fantastic food. Very nice, cheap, friendly place. And of course, that's north, so that's the southern facade with the sun on it. And basically, there are these really tiny walkways that come through and feed into this plaza from other places. And that's the point of gathering, and there's some other trees and the like in there as well, including our tree here. So the plan view. So if you're trying to explain ideas about the place, you're not just drawing a perspective of it. Some of the people in the workshops think I've got to try and draw a perspective, and it's an exercise about perspective, but that's not what the exercise is about. It's about looking at qualities and distilling what you think the essence is. Now, to put all of those ideas into one drawing, I think is probably quite difficult. But these are a set of drawings that you could do to explain the qualities of this, and it's a simple image. It's a plaza, 3.5-story buildings. A little walkway down to the side, cafes and restaurants at the bottom. And of course, if you wanted to even do more, you know, we could focus on, you know, the entrances, the umbrellas, the tables and chairs as well. You know, would be the activity. This is fairly early in the morning before people got up, and also the balconies. So, you know, we could actually just show the windows, these amazing blinds that come out over the windows. Be a shadow in there. Tables and chairs, and of course, you know, people doing things. So we could talk about, you know, the urban relationships of streetscape. So we don't need to really draw what's above there. We could just be focusing on that. And indeed, this building's got a fantastic little roof that comes out with amazing, you know, tiled. And a bit of, this is not drawn very well, but you get the idea. So it's about, and balconies are in there, of course. There's one there, there's balconies up there as well. So the sense of people looking onto the space and looking up at people, how people occupy the building. And we could also, if you wanted to, just put that in there as well. So, yet another interpretation of what urban activity, let's say that plaza alfalfa. So no drawing is correct completely, clearly. They're all just different interpretations. What I like about these drawings is that you can begin to have a conversation about qualities. And if you're an architect or designer, you're presenting a scheme, you can say, well, here's my scheme, it's plaza alfalfa. But you need to explain why the scheme has quality, what are the qualities that you've been trying to establish through the design process, and what are the qualities that the design is evoking. So these sorts of drawings are very helpful in training you to be thinking of the key qualities and observations that you are making in your own design strategies for projects. And it also makes you, I think, more acutely aware of your surroundings. Drawing, I've said before, helps you observe things very carefully. It helps you see things and helps you understand things, the buildings, just proportions and details and how they're put together. But also, it helps you remember them as well. And I'll talk about that in another video, about the power of drawing and remembering. So there you have it, one plaza, 6 ways to look at an interesting and simple scene and describe the qualities of what you're looking at.